Good morning. Welcome to the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission meeting on the 11th of October. The OAC has met the requirements for compliance with the Open Meeting Act and filing of the meeting notice and posting of the agenda.
Yes, we have.
Okay. Yeah, I'll call the meeting to order, and please call the roll, Jane.
Chairman Conway,
Here?
Vice Chair Potter,
Here.
Secretary Amos,
Here.
Commissioner Putnam, Commissioner Hunter,
Here.
Commissioner Ray,
Here.
Commissioner Ritz.
Here.
Great. Thank you very much. We have a quorum. Item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the meeting, the minutes of the Aeronautics Commission meeting from August 9th and September 11th. Let's do those individually. Let's do August 9th first. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter,
Yes.
Secretary Amos,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye. Okay, the August 9th meeting minutes have been approved. Now for September 11th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve, second,
Second.
and a second. Okay, let's call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Secretary Amos,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
And abstain as well. Motion, they're approved. Item 4, we have a new Assistant Operations Officer, Director Byrd. You going to introduce this individual?
Courtney Finney is our new Assistant Operations Officer. Take a bow, Courtney. I asked him to sing, but he's refraining from that, although he's a great singer. He did the national anthem at the opening of Naseo, which I think some of you were there and heard that. This guy's got, look him up on YouTube. He'll probably be, well, I don't know, replacing Jay-Z or Kanye someday. I don't know, but he's pretty good. He is pretty darn good. So we're happy to have him on board. Comes to us from the Department of Health.
Item 5, Director's Report. Director Byrd?
The first item there is Grayson Arties and myself attended a Sustaining Military Readiness Conference in St. Louis in mid-August. This was a good part of it was focused on the issue that we have certainly spent some time on, protecting military training airspace. We also went to it in anticipation of something you have previously approved, that we will receive a grant from the Department of Defense to oversee the mapping, if you will, of all the military training airspace, the military training routes, the drop zones, traffic patterns, bombing ranges in the state of Oklahoma that will be done pursuant to that grant. We'll be selecting a consultant most likely to do that, who has the expertise necessary in order to do that, and that was arranged in cooperation with the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission. I'll note it here and more fully report on it in the interest of time at our December meeting. Some of you, I'm sure, have been aware, and we've been keeping you aware that the current issue with NextEra, I didn't put this because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. At the moment, there's a settlement agreement between the Attorney General and NextEra that they will refrain from further construction of turbines west of Hinton in the Minco 4-5 wind farm. It's our contention that the 100-plus turbines that have been built have not complied with state law that requires a determination of no hazard to be obtained for those turbines prior to commencing construction. That did not occur here, although, and even with that, NextEra had proceeded. As you all know, you voted to file an injunctive action. That no such action has ever been filed. However, the Attorney General has entered into this agreement, which from the press release issued by the Attorney General's office, we know will go through the 15th of October, providing and hoping for a mitigation plan to be worked out through the Department of Defense's clearinghouse. If that's not done, which I think there's some concerns about that, I don't know where exactly that leaves us at that point. The next item is about the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma UAS demonstration. This is, there were 10 sites selected as part of the integrated pilot program for UAS from the FAA and the administration. And we were fortunate enough to receive one of those, that being the Choctaw Nation. And there was a demonstration of that on August 15th. And you'll note that we went straight from St. Louis down to that and attended that. We have assisted the Choctaws and James Grimsley, who's been their main advisor in that effort. And it is something really, it was the only tribe to receive such a program. And that's something we all should be very excited about. And I'll continue to update you on the progress and status of that. Stillwater celebrated its 100,000th passenger. Believe it or not, it has been, yeah, Mr. Conway, it has been an overwhelming success. When this was Gary Johnson's brainchild, I had my doubts, but his perseverance and his vision, it certainly has borne out that it is a success. I also attended Gary Johnson after some 32 years, the longest serving as far as we can find in historical records, longest serving airport manager in the state of Oklahoma, retired on September the 21st. I was there and made some remarks, and Gary is certainly, I think there's a couple airport managers here today would certainly say he's the dean of the airport managers, if you will. No funny business under Gary. The fraternities and sororities are all in order, but he was always a readily available resource for all airport managers and personnel as to problems encountered in operating an airport, whether it's general aviation or commercial, on a day-to-day basis. So we'll miss Gary, but I got a feeling he'll be around. Very pleased to tell you the NASAIL convention that was here from September 23rd to 26th was a outstanding success. 288 attendees at the convention, which puts it certainly among the highest numbers for attendees at the convention. 34 states, I believe, so from that standpoint, very, very successful as well. We did not have to contend with a hurricane as we did last year in Alabama when we had the NASAIL convention in Mobile Bay, not actually in the bay, but in a hotel beside the bay. We didn't have to worry about that, and no, it was really pretty. We had some rain, but the weather cooled off, and it was actually very nice. One other, as I'm sure most of you understand and appreciate, for an association, their annual convention of this nature is definitely one of the biggest revenue raisers. And from a gross revenues perspective, we raised a little over $100,000. So that's a new benchmark too for NASAIL. I hope that the net will also be a new record, but we'll have to see how that bears out because of some expenditures here. But several of the remarks that we got from attendees, I think spoke to how well the convention was received. I think I heard from one person that first time he'd been to an NASAIL convention where had a congressman, a famous astronaut, General Stafford was with us on Sunday, had the governor on Monday morning, and then somewhat of a Baptist evangelist for our Monday keynote luncheon speech being Mike Turpin. And many have said they will never forget Turpin's speech the rest of their life. Those of you who have heard Turpin speak, you can probably appreciate that. It was very good. And actually, interesting about that, Turpin's boyhood hero was Wernher von Braun. So he kind of started off on that note. But we really had a lot of raves about that. But without question, the thing we were most complimented on, Secretary Patterson, was the assistance of ODOT staff, the rides to and from the airport, rides elsewhere. It would not have been a success without your support and the support of your staff. So we are very grateful for that. Thank you. We did learn during the convention, the FAA reauthorization bill was passed. I'm going to more fully report on that to you at our December meeting, still being interpreted to some extent, although we know the basics. Basics are a 5-year bill, first time since 1982, an FAA reauthorization bill that long. Unfortunately, AIP, Airport Improvement Program, level is authorized at $3.35 billion, which is where it's been stuck. It'll go from 2019 to 2023, and so that'll make 12 years now. It's been at $3.35 billion. One thing that kind of helps that, really starting in 2018, although it wasn't pursuant to it was in a sort, but Congress authorized $1 billion to come over from the general fund to AIP, focused upon small and medium-sized airports in rural areas. We did pretty well on that in 18. We're going to do much better on 19. Appropriation authorization only goes through FY 2019, but there's a lot of support for this. I think the appropriators and other conditions will be right, and it will continue through the duration of the bill. And so that ratchets things up, and that's definitely a good thing. The NPE program continues. One good note for the states, non-block grant states such as Oklahoma right now, we're a channeling state. The NPE that's expiring, we don't ever lose our NPE back to Washington to the discretionary fund. We do not. Our congressional delegation advised us many years ago, do not let that money come back to Washington. So we do a great job of making sure that money gets transferred from an airport where that money may be expiring, that $150,000 grant, to another NIPIAS airport, another general aviation airport in the federal system. But for those who don't have that down to a science, what can occur now is when there is going to be expiring money that goes back to Washington, it will not go into what's referred to as the general discretionary fund or pot that can be distributed to any and all airports in the federal system, most of which usually goes to large hub airports. Now it will be pigeonholed in what is basically a discretionary fund for non-primary or general aviation airports, so it can only go to projects there. In block grant states, it's even better. So the 10 block grant states, such as Texas, such as Missouri, such as Michigan, if they have expiring money, it will actually stay in the state and be added to their state apportionment. That amount they get that can be utilized at their discretion for big rock projects. That was what we wanted really for all states. We didn't get that, but we got the next best thing for non-block grant states. We'll continue to work on that. The Essential Air Service Program was continued at $155 million, and eventually it'll go up to $172 million. The Small Community Air Service Grant Program is continued at $10 million. There are a number of drone developments. Probably the most significant is the exclusion for hobbyists has been somewhat narrowed, limited, and I'll report a little more fully on those at our December meeting. There are interesting, as always, with respect to the airlines. Now they're going to guarantee the size of seats. They're going to guarantee the size of laboratories. You can't be drug off the plane if you're a revenue passenger and you've been cleared. There's little interesting things, but still what the airlines are, and I'm not trying to beat up on the airlines, but the baggage fees, upgrade fees, things of that nature, change fees, are still not going to be routed through the trust fund. So the actual, as far as investment that can be made in our aviation infrastructure will not benefit from that. But by and large, PFCs were not raised, which was a big disappointment for our commercial airports. Oklahoma City and Tulsa and Lawton and Fort Sill all were in favor of that. Cap was kept at $4.50, which is kind of tough. That was unfortunately, that became really a battle between airlines and the larger commercial airports. Need some relief, because that's really where, particularly even the larger commercial airports, they rely more on PFCs than they do on the Airport Improvement Program. With that, I'll more fully report on this as we digest it, we interpret it. We're certain of what it really is there. Still a lot of discussion on that at the December meeting. But I'll stand for questions, Mr. Chairman.
Very good report. Any questions? Yes? Yes, please.
Commissioners, I want to tell you kind of my story. I wasn't able to go to the convention because I had to go to the ASTO meeting in Atlanta where all the DOT CEOs were. But just as you know, the great job that these guys did with the convention, I had my peers coming up to me in Atlanta telling me what a great job and what a great meeting this was going on. And it was all about, as Vic indicated, it was about the agenda and the old Okie hospitality. So congratulations, Vic. You guys pulled your team together and allowed ODOT to help you. You didn't have to do that, but that, you know, to be in Atlanta and getting comments of what a great job these guys were doing was, it tugs on the heartstrings just a little bit.
I'm really glad when you're here, Mr. Secretary. Helps me a lot. And I will note this, it goes, I've praised him many times. I was really humbled by being awarded NASAO's most prestigious award, the Ken Rowe Ambassador of Aviation Award, at the conclusion of the convention, which is a testament to the director who embodies and the idealism, if you will, the spirit, the belief, and capabilities of state aviation agencies. So really, it's an award. It's an award to your staff, to the capabilities of your staff. And the staff was above and beyond with respect to the convention. Between our staff, and the sales staff is not huge, and there's been some recent resignations, so they were down to 2 and counting. So they depended heavily on OAC staff and ODOT staff to make it a success. And we also kept the ghost at bay, although there were a few incidents. But those, I'm sure, will go down into the legend and lore of the Skirvin, and I think they'll probably get exacerbated some, or I'm sure somewhat embellished.
Well, it may be inappropriate, but I think this calls for a round of applause for you and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Byrd. Moving on to number 6, National Association of State Aviation Officials Annual Dues.
Yes, and speaking of NASAO, I need your approval to pay our annual dues, and that's, so I come to you annually and ask for that.
Have a motion to approve.
Okay.
And a second. Jerry. Any discussion?
I think it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, let's not drop out now.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Secretary Amos,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 7, Legislative Initiatives. Director Byrd and Sandra.
Let me, Sandra will correct me where I forget something, or, you know, my software's overloaded, I need more RAM, so. The first 2 are driven, I'm sure you can appreciate this because we've focused on this to a great extent the last several years. First 2 are driven by the fact that over the next 20 years, our system in Oklahoma will have $1.8 billion in needs. We'll have $1 billion available, counting all sources, federal, state, and local, to meet those needs, so we're short. We're short quite a bit. What we really need to badly, this cap was placed on the Aircraft Excise Tax that could come to the Aeronautics Commission revolving fund in 2015. We have lost money in FY 2017, $1.2 million. Not a lot to the state budget that's funded by general revenue, but still to us, it is quite a lot. It can be a major airport project, and more importantly, that's paid by aircraft owners and pilots, with the understanding, by way of our enabling legislation, that that's going to be spent on aviation, and more particularly aviation infrastructure. There's always been that trust, that implied contract that underlies that we need you to pay in aircraft excise taxes. We need to get the cap removed. It's not right. It wasn't when the legislature sent 100% of this to us in 2001, 2002. There was nothing like that. This was going to be our major source of revenue. We are a state that has not, as a matter of public policy, gone the way of having a higher aircraft fuel tax. Unlike most other states, that's the way they fund their aviation infrastructure investments. That's not what we've chosen. We've chosen the aircraft excise tax. We need to get the cap removed. So that's what this is about, and that will be our number one goal this session. And just from the way things have shaped up the last 12 months, insofar as revenue collections and the forecast, I think our chances in that regard, I'm very hopeful. I'm optimistic. The second one is, and this goes back, we've addressed the exemption for charter aircraft that are placed upon a Part 135 ticket. A little concerned about how that may be getting implemented. It did have the emergency clause, so it was effective when it was signed by the governor in May. Have not had any substantive discussion with the Tax Commission about the implementation of that. Am attempting to do that, but as the Incentive Evaluation Commission, which is still ongoing and looking at all Oklahoma's tax credits, tax incentives, tax rebates, et cetera, which ones are good, which ones are obsolete, which ones are just bad, they really looked at the fact that we had more exemptions to the aircraft excise tax than any other state. And when you consider this is 92% of our revenues, it makes some sense. We need to go back and look those over and look those over closely. Look at what the Incentive Evaluation Commission had to say about those exemptions and determine those that are obsolete or no longer make any sense, and some that just may be plain bad. So we'll be doing that in the course of the legislative session and before that, and that could certainly result in legislation. Ensuring aviation safety. This is our continuing emphasis upon aviation safety, both civil and military, and taking steps to, in furtherance of that, there's nothing more important that we do than to ensure aviation safety. We are the state's aviation agency. If we don't stand for this, whether it's been keeping contract towers open or making sure that obstructions don't create hazards to air navigation, we probably shouldn't stand for anything. So want to also continue that. That too could, and I'm not bringing you anything specific because it's way too dynamic, but I know we want to continue that effort. There's been discussed, and I wanted to put it on the agenda, if you will. It's been discussed with various cities, airport sponsors, the idea that somewhat like the immunity enjoyed by ODOT and counties and cities with respect to roads and highways and bridges and repair and so forth, to do something like that for airports and runways and things of that nature, things that happen. We're certainly willing to explore that, but what I would want to do it in partnership with the Municipal League, because this is really about every airport sponsor is a city, say for one, that being the University of Oklahoma, but we'd make sure that it would enjoy whatever might come from that as well. And then, not for sure, I'm going to consult with, I visited a little bit yesterday with the Director of Aerospace over at Commerce, Vince Howey. Not sure that we want to, but I need you to say it's okay, repeal the CADSQ and OAI legislation. As you all know, that was in a sense replaced last session by the ACES legislation, which Commerce has set up, which it will begin getting funding for. But the switch is now ready to be flipped on November the 1st. Issue being, they have to go back each year for line item funding for the ACES program. If that didn't happen, right now, the language for CADSQ and OAI is still in the books, and it's in Aeronautics. I imagine we would still be at the same place that, well, without funding, which that's the way it was supposed to be when those programs were transferred to us, we probably would not be inclined to do it, given our needs in airport infrastructure. But I think there is some, and I want to consult with the main Senate author of ACES last year, Senator Rosino, who we've visited about before, and talked to him about this a little bit. There is some likelihood that there may be, let's not do that. Let's leave that as a placeholder, and let's see what happens. I mean, the Oklahoma statutes are littered with language of that nature, so I don't think this would add to that too very much. It's been there and OAI's been there, and we actually discontinued funding for CADSQ at the conclusion of FY 2017. So we discontinued funding for OAI some 6-7 years ago. So that's my report on the legislation. I would need action, motion to approve us moving forward with these items.
Okay. I hear a motion to approve moving forward with these legislative items.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Secretary Amos,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Jane, you going to tell us how much in the black we are?
Good morning, everyone.
morning.
In your packet behind item number 8, you'll find the 2019 fiscal year financial information and the numbers are as of September 30th. And then on the first page, you can see that there's an ending cash balance of $4.7 million with just under $6.9 million encumbered. We had our new CIP come in, so we've got a lot of it encumbered. But we do have an additional $2,673,250 that still remains to be granted. Year-to-date expenditures for FY19 are $1,609,321, with almost $1.2 million of it being toward airport construction program. And interesting, the expenditures are about the same as what they were last year, almost real close, so that was kind of interesting. On our statutory deposits for the month of July totaled $113,958. For August, $130,117, and September was $209,450, for a total of $450,525 for the first quarter of FY19, and that compares to over $1 million in the same time frame last year. So obviously we've started out a little slow. We need to pick it up a little bit. People need to buy planes. But for the month of October, it looks like it's going to come in at about $423,000. So that's a good start. Hopefully that trend will continue. And then on the third page, it shows an average for the 3-year comparison on the statutory revenue, which is the aircraft registration fees, excise tax, and fuel tax collections. We had our FY20 budget request, which was due October 1st. It has been filed, submitted to the Office of Management and Enterprise Services. And this document mostly asks for detailed information about how OEC is governed, as well as the programs that we run and how they run, showing cost, and then we have to project up a year or two what we think it's going to cost in the future. So I think that's about it, if you have any questions for me.
Well, it's a good report. Do you have any questions for Jane? No, thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like Dale Williams is up with the approval to proceed request for qualifications airport systems plan update. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. Since there's several new commissioners on the commission, I thought I'd give a brief overview of the current Oklahoma system plan. Originally, it was adopted in 1999. At that time, it was actually adopted by the Oklahoma Aeronautics and Space Commission. But it was adopted in 1999 We amended in 2005 by removing 7 airports from the system. They were, had very little traffic and were broken to a point where we couldn't afford to fix them. So we removed them from the state system, meaning they no longer are eligible to receive state or federal funds. Our system plan identifies the airports in the system, what their functional classification is, what their role in the airport system is, and also identifies the amenities that we think they would need to fulfill that role. And by doing that, it provided guidance to the airports on their direction, our direction, we'd move with them, in the FAA's direction. And we basically used the airport system plan to help develop our capital improvement program over the years. Currently, there's 108 airports in the system. 99 of them are federally eligible NIPIAS airports that are eligible to receive federal funds. 77 or 78 of them are NPE eligible, so they participate in the NPE program and are eligible to receive the $150,000 a year. 21 of them are unclassified in the system, and even though they're eligible to receive federal funds, they're not participating in the NPE program because they have less than 10 based aircraft. And then we have 9 state-only airports that are only eligible to receive state funds. They're not eligible for federal funding. The functional classifications we came up with at that time was the regional business airport, district, and community airports. We've got 49 regional business, 27 district, and 32 community. The regional business airport, we've got 49. Out of that, 43 of them are jet capable at this time. They are basically located at the economic centers around the state. They have they are the backbone in the system. That's where the majority of the aircraft are based. The majority of the traffic is. They usually have at least 20 based aircraft. They have a 5,000-foot runway, makes it jet capable. Typically a full parallel taxiway, runway lights, and AWAS, nav aids, best desirable approaches we can get, and fuel services. The next level is the district airport, and provides access to areas that aren't covered very well by the regional business airport. They still have a financially capable sponsor, meaning they can make their match and things of that nature. They may provide some services. Would like to see them up to 4,000 feet. Several of them are still in around 3,600 feet. May have a partial parallel taxiway, beacon, PAPIs, wind cone, segmented circle. And then the final level is the community airports at a very small community. Typically, the airport manager is either the city manager or somebody like that. They're financially limited. They have very few services. They don't have an airport manager or anything like that. And basically, our goal was just to maintain a safe landing strip there. Have beacon, wind cones, things of that nature. So that's kind of an overview of the existing system. What we're asking for is for the staff to move forward with the FAA consultant selection process, select a consultant, develop a scope of work to update the system plan, and come up with an estimated cost. At that point, the staff will come back to you and ask for approval of the funding and to move forward and receive an FAA grant, because FAA will fund 90% of this program. And staff recommends approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Who was
Here-
the motion?
I think she made the motion, he made the second. Okay, call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter? Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ray?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Conway?
Aye, motion passes. Item 10, Dale, 5-year airport construction plan.
Okay, recall this is the airport construction program is the new name for our capital improvement program. So this is an amendment to the 5-year capital airport construction program. It is for Stillwater Regional Airport. While they were trying to become a commercial service, they had to make several commitments to the airline and as far as revenue guarantees. So, and they also received a federal grant of $447,000 from U.S. Department of Transportation. Along with that request, the commission had identified that the state not only supported what this airport was trying to do, but we supported it financially also with a commitment of $36,000 on that grant application. Again, the overall cost of what, estimated cost of what the airport was going to cost the city was around $4.2 million. However, the staff is only recommending that the amendment to the CIP only be for $36,000 of state grant funds, and those funds would go directly towards marketing, not revenue generating guarantees or anything of that nature. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter, Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 11, Dale Airport Construction Program.
The first item for your consideration is for a project that's identified in our capital improvement program at Fairview Municipal Airport. The project consists of constructing the south portion of the parallel taxiway. Total cost of the project is $1,183,137. $945,794 is federally funded. State share is $178,188, and the sponsor's matching fund is $59,157. The staff the commission is making half the sponsor's match and also providing supplemental funds to fully fund the project. And staff recommends approval.
So what's our total commitment on this? Is
Our
it-
total commitment,
Yes,
the state's commitment is $178,188.
okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Further discussion? Okay, call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye. Motion passes. Item B, Dale.
That's the Fairview photograph there of the south parallel taxiway that's going to be done. Next item for your consideration is at the Stillwater Regional Airport is that $36,000 of marketing funds for the airport to help with the development of the commercial service. Staff recommends approval of $36,000.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve. Need a second.
Second.
And a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dale. Item C, Dale.
Next item for your consideration is a project that's in our approved capital improvement program at Wiley Post. The project consists of removing and installing new LED lights on taxiway Alpha 5 and Alpha 8. Based on bids, the total cost is $371,413. The commission share is $18,571. Sponsor share is $18,571. The commission is making half the sponsor's match. And staff recommends approval.
Okay. Just a quick question. I'm curious as to the savings. I know they're a lot more reliable. Reliability is much higher for LEDs. But have they estimated the cost savings to the airports that put these in?
I don't have that.
Okay.
It's, I think I've seen the same thing where the lights last a lot longer and much lower in cost.
Okay.
It's about reduction of maintenance costs.
Does anybody have an
Yeah.
idea on that?
It's mostly about reduction of maintenance costs rather than reducing electric.
Excuse me?
It's more about reduction of long-term
Maintenance.
maintenance cost, lighting.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Move to approve. Good. And a second? Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye. Motion passes. Item D, Dale.
Next item for your consideration is the preliminary engineering reports. Glenn Bowles, our ADO manager with the FAA, came through town a couple of weeks ago and asked us to go ahead and initiate the 2019 preliminary engineering reports, even though we're just now getting the 2018s underway. The total cost of the 2019 program is about $300,000. Excuse me. And will be funded with 90% with FAA grant funds, 10% state grant funds. The projects consist of the north parallel section of the parallel taxiway at Fairview, which we're just now constructing in the south. So we're doing an engineering report to develop the south portion, or the north portion, which is the one on my left. The next project is at South Grand Lake. Currently, they're a 5,000-foot runway. They don't have a parallel taxiway. The report would go through and develop a engineering report for the construction of a new parallel taxiway at South Grand Lake. The next item is at Watonga, which is rehab of the runway at Watonga. Basically, you go into an overlay. And then at Blackwell Tonkawa, we'll be doing the environmental determination and possibly move it up into actually doing the preliminary engineering report for the rehab of the runway at Blackwell Tonkawa Airport. Again, the total cost of $300,000. FAA plans to fund 90% of that. State share is going to be about $30,000. Staff recommends approval.
Okay.
Move for approval.
A motion to approve. Have a second.
Second.
Have a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dale. Sandra, we're going to hear about Tinker, the Primes, and OWL.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
It's your lucky day because I'm finishing out the program, and this is going to go fast.
Wow.
Okay,
We
Tinker.
can't end early. You're going to have to slow
I
down.
know, right? Okay,
We have an hour and 20 minutes.
Tinker the Primes was pretty great. Senator Paul, I'm giving you the highlights. Senator Paul Rosino was there with me, visited with several Oklahoma companies, and had the wonderful opportunity to touch base with Vertical Aero from Tulsa. I don't know where it is, Bristow or somewhere. But it was a great time. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold as well. I think Dale and I. But so it was a great time. One of the things that came out of that Tinker and the Primes visit was that there was a serious need for aerospace mechanics, and Field Aero has reached out to me, as well as Vertical, Consolidated Turbines, several companies. So I think that Senator Rosino is looking at something for the legislative session to bring an interest to aerospace mechanics and recruiting those people to go into aerospace mechanic jobs. And also, we went to the Oklahoma Municipal League Conference, and just as Dale and I were wondering why we were there, we remembered why we go to the Oklahoma Municipal League Conference. Dale had the opportunity, I was glad he was with me that day, to answer several questions for people with airports in their communities. And we had a great day. Then Catherine took over the next day and finished out the program for us at the Oklahoma Municipal League Conference, and it was a great time. Next year we'll be in Tulsa. So I'll stand for questions on those two items.
Any questions?
Okay.
Item 13.
Item 13, the second annual Women in Aviation and Aerospace Day Luncheon will be held December 6th in concurrence with our commission meeting that we are having in Tulsa. I'm going to invite Christy Slater to come and visit with you briefly from OAOA to talk about their program.
Thank you, Sandra. Good morning, Commissioners. We had a very successful event last year, and as you know, that was the first event we had held since the legislation passed. This year, we're expecting upwards of 300 people, and we're really excited to host the event in Tulsa. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
We'll be there.
Yes, you will.
Most of the commissioners will be in attendance, and that's a real honor for us. Last year, we had Commissioner Amos and Commissioner Putnam was there with us. And lots of dignitaries there this year, and lots of lawmakers and legislators. And of course, we extend that invitation to Secretary Patterson as well. BizJet is helping us this year. It's going to be in the BizJet hangar, and they are offering a tour to attendees afterwards. That's going to be exciting, shuffling 300 people through BizJet, but I am glad I'm not handling the logistics of that. So in our events and aviation and aerospace events in your packets, Commissioners, you have this paper here. Just wanted to highlight a few things. This weekend at OU, Commissioner Ritz, tomorrow morning, there is the aviation breakfast you all are invited to. I'm sure Commissioner Ritz will attend, and if you would like to go, I'm sure that you could visit with her and she could get you a front row seat. And all are welcome to that as well. Did I miss something? Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jane. If we could back up on the agenda to item 13, Commissioners. I probably skipped this because there was a Scrivener's error, and I probably didn't want to talk about that. So it is on the agenda, it says December 9th at Wiley Post. That was last year's event, and this year will be December 6th at Tulsa International Airport at the BizJet hangar. And I am recommending that the commission approve a $750 community sponsorship for the event, and would stand for a motion or questions.
Motion to approve, second,
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, Jane.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye, motion passes.
Big Bird makes this job look easy.
Yeah.
October 27th at Sundance Airport, they're having their pancake breakfast and fly-in, and the Ford is going to be there. Commissioner Hunter, you want to say anything about that? Great event from the 25th through the 28th? Fly on the Ford.
I have flown that airplane. It is awesome. It's really a stretch to realize that that was, 19 years after the first flight? The technology made that kind of a leap that quickly. And it's a rare opportunity to be able to take a ride or, on an aircraft of that level of importance. That is what set up the national airport.
Well, we
Network.
wish you much great success on your event, sir. And then, of course, Women in Aviation. There is lots of information in social media about Women in Aviation Day. If you will go to Facebook, for those of us that are on social media, go to Facebook and just type in the words Oklahoma Women in Aviation. The day will populate, the event will populate. You'll get to see lots of information. Video from last year on YouTube. There's a huge video on YouTube that has Director Byrd and me singing the song Oklahoma in humiliation at the end. And so you don't want to miss that. And so also on NASEO, just wanted to point out that if you want to relive the wonderful NASEO conference, you can go to their Facebook page there. They live streamed the sessions. There's an FAA session, Commissioner Ritz, that Michelle Coppage did, and it's a great session. You can watch all of those on YouTube, including the Turpin speech and all of those things. So with that, Mr. Chairman, our concluding remarks is that we'd like to see everyone on December 6th in Tulsa at our commission meeting. If you need more information from the audience to the commission, please give me a call, and I'll be happy to assist you to work out the logistics of that as we embark to the Tulsa International Airport. The meeting will be upstairs above the American Airlines ticket counter in their conference room. And Commissioner Conway, I would stand for questions and the announcement of the next meeting.
Any questions for Sandra? Okay, hearing none. The next meeting is going to be on December 6th, as we just mentioned. We're going to go to Tulsa International Airport. We're going to meet at 10 o'clock. Any new business that we did not have previous information on? Everybody's quiet. Well, hearing none, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That's a record.